Classic book review, Bram Stoker's Dracula. So I've been reading this over the past couple of weeks, leading up to Halloween. And I have some thoughts on this book. It's Victorian literature. It was published in 1897. The story's setting takes place in 1893. And the format of the book, that's really what I want to talk about. It's written as a collection of journal entries, logs, newspaper clippings. So it doesn't have like a first person or third person narrative structure. You're just reading like a mishmash or a hodgepodge of different, journals and whatnot, told by different characters. And there's a bunch of stylistic changes and tonal shifts between characters. So it's both a plus and a negative for the book. It's a unique story framing device, but at the same time, it gets tedious, especially when you're reading the same thing. Like you read one character's journal entry and then another character is giving you their perspective and you're like, I already know this. So I'm not really a big fan of it. The beginning opening chapters with Jonathan Harker are probably the most interesting, at least they were to me. The pages where he's in Transylvania and he's at Castle Dracula. Dracula has a mustache, and he's an old man at the beginning of this, which is very different from what you've seen in most of the movies and whatnot. But and he has a whole array of powers that go beyond your typical vampire stuff. For one thing, he can walk during the day. Sunlight just basically limits his powers and his ability to do, to use his powers. Now let's talk about his powers. Dracula can make himself big or small, so he can grow his size or shrink. He can change himself into a variety of animals. A giant bat or a bat, a wolf, a dog. He appears as these in the novel. He can control animals, creatures of the night. Mice, bats, wolves, owls, these types of things. He has a power over them. He can control the other undead. And he has, he doesn't cast a shadow. He doesn't have a reflection in a mirror. He's able to control weather. That's interesting. He can make fog around himself or make a storm or make it snow. His power is limited to his general area, but there is a portion of the book where he travels from Transylvania to London, England, on the Demeter, a ship called the Demeter. And it's engulfed in a fog bank the entire time. That section of the book was really quite harrowing. But towards the second half of the book, it just really, for me, it drags on way too long. The stuff with Lucy and her transformation being preyed upon by Dracula, it's a mystery, and the mystery just takes way too long to solve. The character of Van Helsing is very interesting, and I really enjoyed him, but Dracula is not really fleshed out. None of the characters really are. Dracula's motivations, I don't exactly know what his motivations are, other than just being evil and wanting to, expand his territory or influence. He's an AntiChrist figure. So I just got out of liturgy this morning. I'm an Orthodox Christian, and I really picked up reading this book that he's an antichrist in the sense that, this is going to take a little theological discussion. For Orthodox Christians, we believe in theosis, union with Christ, and that this is achieved through partaking of the sacraments of the church, like the Holy Eucharist, the Lord's Supper. Dracula is much the same way, only in a demonic or satanic way. That he feeds upon his victims' blood, and that part of them becoming a vampire, they have to feed upon him. And there's this whole, where they become almost one with Dracula. So his thralls or his minions, right? He's got like 3 brides of Dracula, and later on people that he feast on, and they drink of his blood. They have like a psychic connection. They know what each other knows. Okay, so it's like they're linked. It's like the two become one, like in mind and spirit. So, and he's also repelled by holy objects like crucifixes and holy wafers. The Lord's Supper. I don't know how. This is a question I have. How is Van Helsing getting access to consecrated hosts? Obviously it's Catholic, but I don't see a priest just handing out like consecrated wafers to somebody. So that's a question, like, how does he get a hold of these? I know at my church, if I was to walk up and try to take the Eucharist from the church, like the priest would be like, what are you doing? No way, you're not having that. So that's weird. It's kind of a plot hole for me. But things that repel Dracula: garlic and wild roses, interestingly enough. I was kind of like, wow, that's something you don't hear about in vampire stories. And then there's something about Dracula not being able to cross running streams, what he calls living water. I'm assuming that also has to do with baptismal rites, because one of the things that's involved in ancient Christian baptism, which according to the writings of the Didache, a very early Christian text, is you're supposed to perform baptisms by immersion in what's called living water, or water that's flowing. I'm assuming this is because of Christ's baptism in the Jordan River and emulating him, but it also has to do with what Saint Peter says in his epistle about it being a symbol of baptism. Baptism is a symbol of the flood, and that the giants are the evil, creatures that were walking the earth, and the evil men were all drowned in the flood. So I'm assuming it has a connection to baptismal rites. There are prayers of renunciation of evil in Christian baptism. So lots of people making the sign of the cross in this book to ward off evil. This is just a classic good versus evil story. There is no gray area. It's black and white. So that's really all I have to say about it. Would I recommend reading it? It's a classic of literature. I would probably give it a 3 out of 5. It was okay. The middle part drags. The book could have been cut down by 100 pages or so. I probably won't ever reread it again, but it is interesting just to see the host of powers that Dracula has and some of the really horrific stuff. Think in the Victorian era, if you're living in the 19th century. Dracula's feeding babies or toddlers to the brides of Dracula. I mean, like, it's pretty hairy, man. Like, kids. That's some hardcore stuff for an 1897 novel. Thanks for watching. God bless and have a wonderful day.